All right, so in part 2 of the video, we are going to work a little bit backwards. So let's look at given circumference and area. So we have previously talked about circumference and area. So if you'll remember, your formula for circumference is C equals 2 pi r. And then your formula for area was area equals pi r squared. Why these formulas look nice with our equation of a circle formula is we can have r in all of them. So if we know circumference, I can find the radius and use this formula. Or if I know the area, I can find the radius, use this formula. So let's look at some of these. I'm going to try 12 and 14, and y'all are going to try the rest. So circumference is 6 pi. So if you've got your formula C equals 2 pi r, I can substitute circumference on the left side. So 6 pi is on the left side is equal to 2 pi r. So back to our first week in circles, I'm going to divide by 2 pi on both sides to get r by itself. All the pi's will cancel out, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So you know your radius is going to be a 3. So now I can take this center and this radius and write my equation. I am going to erase this so I have some room. So my formula, start off with your x minus your -1, so become a plus your y minus the 4 squared equals your r squared. So 3 squared would give you a 9. And that is your answer. So you may have to do a little bit more work of working backwards to figure out your radius. So let's take a look at another one. I'm going to do my work to the side so I don't have to erase it this time. So my area is 16 pi. So I'm going to plug in that formula. Come on, computer. For that glitch. So if the area is 16 pi, I'm going to substitute that in on the left side where my area formula is going to be, equals pi r squared. To solve for r, we've got a little bit more work on this one, but I'm going to divide by pi, leaving you with 16 on the left side is equal to r squared. To get r by itself, you're going to square root both sides, and so you'll get your radius of 4. So I'm going to take my center and my radius to write my formula. So start off with x minus your center, so -8 becomes a +8 squared, plus your y value minus a -11 becomes a +11, equals, and then you're going to take your radius and square it, so 4 squared will be 16. Okay, so that is an example where they can give you circumference or area, and you will have to work backwards to find your radius to substitute it into your formula. So why don't you guys try 13 and 15? Very similar. Press pause, and then we will go over them together. So my work for 13 is up here. So I first circumference, I found my radius. 17 divided by 2, which is 8.5. So it is okay to have a decimal. 8.5 squared is going to be 72.25. Again, change your signs in your equation. For 15, my work is up here. So 361 pi equals pi r squared divided by pi, leaving you with 361 equals r squared. And I left it as my square root. No need to make it a decimal, because when you square it, the square root of 361 squared ends up being 361 for your formula. And again, make sure you change your signs. And I forgot a little squared here. Okie dokie. All right, the next part is not bad at all. So we're going backwards, meaning, hey, here is the equation, and now you are going to figure out the information. Okay, so let me copy and paste our formula real quick to help us out down here. So similar to when your center was negative and then in the equation it was positive, your signs are going to change. Okay, So here on the first one, you have the minus sign in your equation, which matches up, making your h positive. So your center is actually a positive 5, even though it looks like a negative 5 in your equation. Here, the negative sign comes from here, so it's not with the negative 1, it's just in your equation. So the center is actually a positive 5 and then a positive 1. And then to find your radius, you've got your r squared equal to that right side, and to get r by itself, you're going to square root. So the square root of 64 is going to be 8. Okay, so you will always square root this right number. So let's look at 18 together. Your center, since there is a no number with this one, would be a 0. You're going to change this sign to a negative 10 for your center. And then this right here would be your radius, but look at them, they've thrown in diameter. So your r squared equals 42.25. When you square root both sides, you are going to get your radius, I believe is 13. Let me type it in. Nope. Gives you a decimal of about 6.57. So then your diameter is going to be the whole thing. So if you've got 6.57 times 2, that's roughly going to be about 13. So why don't you guys try 17 and 19, see if you can find the center and the radius for those problems. All right, so center again, change your signs. The square root of 324 is 18, and so that's going to be your radius, but if it wants the diameter, it wants the whole way across, so 18 and 18 would be 36, or 18 times 2. For here, you can just leave it as the square root of 58, since it is not a nice number, and the center will be a positive 6 and a negative 11. Okay? Let's see, if you would like to do the challenge problem, we can do it together. Otherwise, thank you for watching the video on equations of a circle. So if you don't want to do the challenge problem, go ahead and stop watching this video. But if you want a challenge or want to get a bonus question right, let's do it. All right, so it wants me to write the equation of a circle with the diameter at these endpoints. So if I visualize this, I'm going to have a diameter and a diameter like here. Okay, so to write the equation of a circle, you need the center and you need the radius. Okay, so first off, we have to find the center. Now the center is going to be the middle, and to find the middle of something, especially 2 points, that is called finding the midpoint. We've got a lovely formula for midpoint. You add your x's and divide by 2, and then you add your y's and divide by 2. So that'll find the middle of the x's and the middle of the y's. So here are my x's. So I'm going to say negative 14 plus a negative 10 over 2, and then 1 plus a 9 over 2. So negative 14 and negative 10 is negative 24. Negative 24 divided by 2 will be a negative 12. That would be 10 over 2, which is a 5. Okay, so here is the center of my circle. All right, now I need to find the radius. So how can we find the radius? Let me label this picture up. So I know the center is at negative 12 and a 5. I know one endpoint is a negative 14, 1, and the other endpoint will be negative 10, 9. So the radius is either from this point to this point, or this point to this point. Okay, so we need to find the distance from one point to the other point. So I'm going to use these two numbers. Okay, I'm going to erase all my work so I've got some more room. So if I want to find the distance between these 2 points, you could do these. I'm going to use my distance formula. And that will be x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So this is covered up. It's a negative 12, I believe. So negative 12 minus negative 14 squared. So I can make that a plus. Your y's will be 5 minus 1 squared. 14 minus 2 is 2 squared. 5 minus 1 is 4 squared. 2 squared is 4. 4 squared is 16. So my answer is the square root of a 20. So that would be the radius, because that is what it would be from one point to the center that we found earlier. So now I can take my radius and my center and plug them into my equation. So your final answer would be x plus a 12 squared y minus 5 squared, and then equals 20, because the square root of 20 squared would be a 20. Woo! So a whole lot of stuff we had to do. So first you had to find the center between these 2 diameter points. And again, the formula for center is the midpoint, where you add your x's and divide by 2. That'll give you the first number. Add your y's, divide by 2. Then I used my distance formula from the diameter endpoint to the center, and then found the radius and plugged it in. Woohoo! All right, so maybe that'll help you on a bonus question coming up on our next quiz. So thank you for watching part 2 of Parts of a Circle. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, you can practice.